This is KTN News.
Welcome back to this discussion on Health Digest, and we are talking about sexuality education in Kenya and why this is important. Is it only an education issue but also a health issue? On this panel is Jacqueline Onyango from Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, Dr. Johnston Kuya from SRHR Alliance, and Georgina Obonyo from Youth in Action, AMREF. We'll take...
From our experience, we've seen there was life skills education was supposed to be rolled out in schools. And I feel like life skills education was not a success. It was not able to reach to the young people with reproductive health education and information. And that is because it was not taken seriously by the teachers as compared to other subjects. Now, if we've accepted human sexuality education, how are we going to make sure that it's taken as seriously as the other subjects? Do you have in place ways that you're going to monitor? And do we set targets? Or how are we going to ensure that the young people actually get this information, whether it's going to be examinable or not examinable, but the curriculum is actually gone through by the teachers up to the end?
What we did when we started the curriculum with all the consultations we had was to develop, because like we've indicated, we have mainstreamed this information. So we developed matrices that enable us to have content from pre-primary 1, which is the class that we are starting with, up to the grade 12 that we intend to have. Now, what a matrix does is it indicates what kind of information should the child at this age have. Because when you're doing education, you're looking at several things. First, you're looking at the developmental stage of the child. Can they understand what you're telling them? We are also looking at their physiological growth. What is their body system like so that they can relate with this that you're talking about? Because if I was to talk to a child of 5 years about menstruation, they look at me with a blank face. So there's a continued way in which we have aligned the work to be done. Now, this work, the content that we have picked is then assimilated into various subjects. So for example, if we are going to talk about the body, we have science. If you go to secondary school, we have biology, isn't it? This information is mainstreamed in that area. Now, what we have lacked, and that is why we have the competency-based curriculum now, what we have lacked is the opportunity that after you have taught this information, children can engage in debate, children can ask questions, because everybody wants you to pass the exam. So all the teacher does is then teach you the biological functions of the body for girls and boys, and it remains there, isn't it? When you go to the exam, the same questions comes in the same way. So you are as good as you are when you are just saw the skeleton and you were taught that about that body. So what we are saying is that at the point when this teacher is teaching about, say, the changes in the body, there are changes and there are certain things that will follow. So allow these children to talk about even what is happening to themselves in school, so that as they discuss these issues, it is real life that they are dealing with, and so they can be able to appreciate. So the competency-based curriculum is saying the teacher doesn't have to tell the information. We actually want children to build the information. So there's a component of learning that we've brought in that we are referring to as inquiry-based learning, where the teacher uses questions to teach the learners. So that it is not a case of they come to class and teach you this is what the body is like for the boys, this is what the body is like for the girls, and that's it. They should be able to ask, what do you think is happening at this point? Because like you've rightly said, the information is already out there. So don't assume that these children don't know, and then you teach that because you want them to pass an exam and you leave it. That is the biggest gap we have had. And we are praying that indeed, if this curriculum is allowed to play out as it should, then we will have the learners getting the capacities that they actually need.
I think I totally agree with Jackie, and as we continue praying for for that to happen, I think one of the things that has really failed us, there has been a lot of intervention for comprehensive sexuality education by civil society organizations, but I think what has really failed us is that we are building knowledge, we are not building a skill. And even talking about what Jackie says, that all this information is streamlined in the subjects that are there. For example, HIV could be in CRE. What are we telling? What therefore are we saying that it's a sin actually to engage in sex? When I learn about in biology how labeling my body parts, how does that even help me when I'm in a situation where I'm just about to have sex? And then looking at what I have learned in school is that this is my ovary, this is how it looks like, and this is its function. This is my placenta. How is that information really helping me? What I need at that point is a skill for me to negotiate for safe sex. I don't need to know what will get where, what will happen after that. I need to have a skill to negotiate and tell the dude, no, without rubber, you ain't getting anything.
That is very... That is really powerful from a youth advocate. I think also we need to ask ourselves questions. Are we prepared, or how prepared are the teachers? Recently, we know we have curriculum reforms. They have issues with the level of preparedness for teachers. These teachers, have we prepared them to discuss issues of comprehensive sexuality education? Have we revisited ourselves as countries with regard to value and moral clarifications? Because these teachers, some of them, with due respect, maybe they have also their own religious beliefs.
Maybe, they do.
They are
our parents.
Exactly, they are social
the community
norms.
That we are in.
All these issues, have they been addressed? So when they are asking questions to students, I mean, are they prepared to be able to respond to that? So I think, for me, we need to address the issue of also teachers' competency, so that we can also be able to deliver this sexuality education. The other thing is about that harmonization. I think is also a challenge. We recognize that there is no synchronization between the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education. People, or the government is talking different. I think for sexuality education, we have to be able, as government, they have to be able to talk in unison, agree that this is the message that we are telling or we are passing to Kenyans. Without that, I mean, we will not be able to address. And then lastly, the other thing is also about our programming around this sexuality education. It's not more about, we need to look at young people are having sex, the sexual debut, as we've seen, 12, 11. What do we do about it? What do we do about it? Can we be able to address this issue by providing contraceptives that even most people will not want to agree with me? But assuming, the other day you saw what the minister designate was saying, that a 13-year-old girl comes to her clinic. What does she do? I mean, there are so many consequences. So we just need to stop burying ourselves in the head and address this issue of sexuality education.
I just want to underline what Dr. Kuya has said about the fact that CEC just has proven to work, because you might have noticed I'm not Kenyan and I'm from the Netherlands, and we are one of the countries with the lowest teenage pregnancy rate in the world, because we implement comprehensive sexuality education in schools. And you can see it's working, because, for example, in the year 2016, we only had 1,492 adolescents who gave birth in the whole country. And the majority of that group was 18 or 19 years old. Only 95 were 16 or younger. And it all comes with the fact that we are taught in schools from a young age how to be empowered to make decisions, what happens with your body, and how to deal with those changes, and then how to engage with others in the process. So I really wanted to thank the panel for raising the issue, and I'm confused about the fact that that argument is often getting lost in the debate, because the fact is that it is working.
When you're talking about sexuality, it's not just about sex. It's everything that revolves our body, right? And I really want to agree with you that, yes, there has to be sex appropriate curriculum, right? But in my area, a 5-year-old in a bed sitter or in a house made of a mabati, anajua mom na dad wanafanyanga tabia mbaya. How will you start explaining to that young kid, this is normal? You just want to normalize that thing and still not make her think about sex as it is. My sister, she is 4 years old. She saw pads in my bag and asked me, Sandra, mbona unapenda kuvaa pampers kama Devi, because you also have another baby. I started my periods at 11 and my sister started at 10. She didn't start, at that age, she was not in class 6 to learn about reproductive health. So I really want to go for the age-appropriate education, but then again, the times are changing. Our times are changing, which are so different from 5 years back. And our kids are developing, and things are very different from the way they were.
Thank you for reminding me of a certain story. I think it's about menstruation. I'm not sure whether you've heard about it. There was this young girl who the mother just, of course, you know about cervical cancer, right? You know about it? And you know how dangerous it could be. So the media reported about high cases of cervical cancer. And then this parent went to the girl. Have you seen the newspaper? Are you menstruating? If you mess up with the boys, that is your problem. And then the parent, that was the end of that conversation. Why am I bringing this? It's because of that approach. You see, it's about scary stories. Scare tactics. These issues will not address. Let me ask you a question. Do scare tactics or maybe being threatened about death cause pregnancy? It's not. It's about emotion, because our emotions, our hormones, the body changes. Those are the ones that young people need to be guided, and they need to be addressed. Because if you don't address those emotions and those developmental issues, teenage pregnancies will still be a problem. So I totally agree with what the person from the audience has said, that we need to start discussing about the real issues at the right time.
Jackie, she's raised, okay, there are two issues that CSE has worked in Netherlands.
Yeah.
And then she's raising the other issue of there's what should be taught, and then there's what is happening in an environment where you have a bed sitter, for example, and you have young children. So how do you balance and bridge this? Because I know earlier you said you're trying to bridge all these things, but how do you do that in the society that we live in today?
I do agree that there are different circumstances. I think young girls and boys are maturing at younger ages than before.
Yes.
In our age, I think we started our menstruation, we were 14, 15 years. And it was a ceremony for ourselves. In fact, you wished that you were the one who started at 12. We would compete, so to speak. And so, yes, these are the kind of situations that we need to work with. And I agree when you say that we need to actually empower our teachers, because a lot of times you realize the children are actually more in school than they are at home, except for now when we want to start saying that, when we've said they don't stay in school for tuition. But even if you look at the years, the number of weeks they stay in school, they're much longer. So yes, we need to empower those students, the teachers. Now what we have done with this new curriculum, you see, when you open conversation with peers, the children even amongst themselves, it is very easy to pick out even those early bloomers. And this is where we are saying, when these children are blooming early, both the teacher and the parent need to hold this child. Because without that comfort zone, that child is going to get lost. So we know that we have PTAs in the school, for example. Every school has a parents-teachers association. And over years, you've discovered that they're actually having education days where they are training, not necessarily training, but just asking parents to come over and, see what their children are doing. We are saying they need to go a step further. We actually have prepared guidelines for training parents on what their children may be going through. Because one of the things we've realized is, even as we want to point fingers at these parents, some of them don't even know that this child has reached this age and should therefore be behaving in this way. And that is why you'll find many of them will go under the cover of religion, unfortunately, and be asking the next person, can you pray for my child? I think something is absolutely wrong. Now, when a parent feels that the growing up is wrong, then the parent needs help. So part of this curriculum is saying, those organizations that are already within the school, beyond asking the the parent to come and listen to the budgets that you have, can we take time and actually sit with parents and tell them, you see this cohort of children, these are children of this particular age, and this is what they will be experiencing. Now, when the parent sees, it's like, I think I was guided, because there is a very, very big gap. I want to give an example of when my son was in school, and we were asked to come as they were in Form 3, and we were asked to come as parents, and of course you go grudgingly. And this time it was not being read, the budget, but the children were behind the stage and the curtains had been put. And so you're a parent seated on this side, and you're being told to listen to the voice of your child and listen to what the child is saying, because the children were told to say how they think they relate with the parents. And if you think that is your son's voice, you stand up. 3/4 of the parents could not tell the voice of their children. But what was more, would I say, devastating to the parents, because people started weeping. You hear what the child is saying about a parent and you're hoping that's not my child saying. A child is saying, I get home, nobody cares what I'm doing, put the report on the table. By the way, when are you going back for tuition? That is the end of their coming for holiday. Mom, dad, everywhere. At the end of the day, yes, I think it's 2 weeks, you're supposed to go back to school. Can you let us know what you need? That's the kind of relationship. And so from there, then it was like, can the curtains be opened? The children were labeled in numbers. So you now see number 1 is your child, and you're like, oh my God. So it was a very opening and defining moment for us. And so at that point, we then said, fine, if most of us don't even know what we are supposed to do, can we have amongst ourselves people who can lift us up, whom we can ask questions so that we can be able to answer? And it happened that most of, and maybe that's why Dr. is talking very confidently, it happened that those who volunteered to guide us were doctors. I'm a teacher myself, but I opted to say, fine, I will be able to help you in case you have anything. I'll listen to what you're saying, but I had my limits. So I think, as he has said, we need to start working together in terms of our ministries, because I had the benefit of actually attending some of the workshops where they were releasing the results of pregnancies. Where I sit, I'm preparing curriculum for learners up to Form 4. And so I'm being told statistics from our whatever, that these children, these numbers, and you look and you say, these guys like cheating. Until last year, and now it is coming like a streaming movie. And we told ourselves, let's wake up. So we will do the best we can. And I think, as Dr. has rightly put it, it's time we started talking together. In fact, the team that I was with, I told them, you need to come and present these statistics to the senior members of the ministry, because where I sit, I am a policymaker at KICD, I sit at the second level, and I have no idea that is happening. It could be possible that even those of us who are in the ministry may not know the real picture. Okay. So engagement is critical, so that we can be able to actually agree on how to move forward, make the decisions that we need to make, so that at the end of the day, each one of us feels that the contribution you're making is actually acceptable and it is being allowed to work where it should.
Thank you. Dr. Kuya, just to close.
Yeah, I think I will agree with what Madam is saying, but also as a country, we just need to move forward and identify what is it that is not working. Address the issue of comprehensiveness, because as much as we are talking about mainstreaming in the curriculum, fine, well and good, but what we've seen is that if you can have a standalone, I don't know what is the possibility, standalone subject on just sexuality education. I know there used to be a blame game saying that life skill is there, but teachers are not teaching. So there is a threat that, okay, if we put sexuality education again, people will not teach it. I mean, let's use a myriad of ways. Let's go by that. We can be able to address that thing. Okay. The other last point that I have is we need to take advantage of the digital platforms and the media that are ongoing so that we can be able to create content. Because for me, or how I see sexuality education, it is a curriculum based about teaching and learning. It's not just creating awareness like teenage pregnancy is. No, it's about teaching and learning. So if you can be able to initiate that at the various stages from all the ages we've talked about, both informal and informal setting, both in the slums and also in the rich areas like Karen, in the areas like, because I mean we are not addressing all these issues. We need to look where those lands.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think just to add on what Queer and Jackie have said, because I interact a lot with adolescents and young people, please let us not teach comprehensive sexuality education. Let us facilitate discussions. You cannot teach emotions. You cannot teach that. You get it by facilitating a discussion. So I would really insist, let us see that knowledge that we are giving the students translate into practice. Okay. Let's give knowledge. Let us train a skill. Let us build a skill. And maybe I feel like a question from the audience was not really answered in terms of now in a situation where you're in a bed sitter and your little girl comes and asks you a question, or they know what's happening. I think I'm also a mother of a 4-year-old girl, not a teenage mother, but my girl, the first time she saw the song Kangaroo, and the way you know how people are dancing on that video, she was like, gosh, mom, hiyo ni tabia mbaya. I was like, mama, ebu kam, what's tabia mbaya? Like, no, si anamshika. Then I was like, oh my God, this is that time I should begin. Because if I just like brush away that, I needed my daughter to trust me and be like, I'm her girlfriend. I'm like her best friend. And right now, my daughter calls me girlfriend. I call her girlfriend because I would want, if my daughter experiences anything, I'll be the first person she runs to. So at that particular moment, I took it and told her, let no one touch your back. Let no one touch those are your private parts. If anyone does that, it's wrong and come to me. So I think sometimes when our kids come with those questions, we should just jump on it and discuss it. If we tell them, no, this is not the right time, we will lose them. And they will go and ask outside and they will get border people and they will tell them what they really, will take advantage of them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your valued time and input on this discussion on sexuality education. That's where we wrap up this particular conversation, but it doesn't end there. You can still engage with us. You can tweet me at Dr. Mercy Korir at KTN News KE, or you can drop us an email at healthdigest@standardmedia.co.ke, or you can reach us on any of the numbers on your screen. In this discussion, we had Jacqueline Onyango, who's the Senior Deputy Director, Curriculum and Research Services at KICD, Dr. Johnston Kuya, who's the National Coordinator at SRHR Alliance, and last but not least, Georgina Obonyo, who's the Project Officer for Youth in Action, AMREF. That's all we had for you today. We leave you with this week's episode of Patient's Diary. I'm Dr. Mercy Korir.
My name is Yanis Moiron Joroge James John, and I am 5 years old.
What do you want to do when you grow up?
To be a pilot.
When Yanis was born, his mother Catherine did not suspect at any one time that anything could be abnormal with her second child. Just like every mother, after a safe delivery and discharge home, the rest is history. Little did she know that her little one's heart was not whole.
Yanis was unwell that time. I took him to hospital and I was told that he's suffering from pneumonia. And his heart is enlarged one side, the right side of the heart, and the liver was swollen. So he went to Kenyatta National Hospital. That's where he was done his first echo, and he was told that he has an ASD condition.
Yanis was 3 months old at that time, and this news that he had a hole in the heart was devastating, not just because of the anxiety of an uncertain future for her baby, but also due to the high cost of the open heart surgery repair was going to cost the family. 1.7 million shillings. They shuttled from one hospital to the next, hoping to get help.
I kind of gave up. So I started organizing for fundraising for me to go to India, which was next to impossible.
All this while, Yanis was having a hard time growing up as he could not play like other children his age.
He was getting tired when he was playing and squatting. Sometimes he could squat when he's tired. So it was kind of hard for him. Then he was getting infections on and off.
One day, Lady Luck came knocking through social media. A friend sent her an advert by MP Shah Hospital that a charity team from the UK called Healing Little Hearts would be at the hospital to heal little hearts like her son's.
It was 5th November. I received a call from the hospital for his checkup. Then when I came, he was booked for the open heart surgery.
Yanis had his date in the operating theatre, and this year, 5 months after the surgery, Yanis is unstoppable. He had come in for a follow-up review.
The first 3 missions at MP Shah were all cardiac catheterization, so keyhole surgery. And then last November was our first open heart surgery and keyhole surgery combined. So it's one of the very few camps in the world that comes in as an entire team which does open heart surgery and keyhole surgery at the same time. And that replicates what happens in Western countries.
Thanks to this charity organization, Catherine's anxiety about her son's tomorrow has been allayed.
It was a burden that I was lifted. Yeah, so I felt so good.